Time is here, no time to fear. Karel is so near because showtime is here. So on with the show, let's give it a go. Karel is the one that you need to know. Now it's showtime. Now it's showtime.
It's gonna be one of those days. I'm here. Oh dear God! So you didn't hear the intro. You didn't hear how I teased the show. You've heard nothing. You opened up to a show that, look, okay, I'm gonna be honest with everybody, whether you're listening on audio or video. I was at the park at 8:45, about to come home, and my phone said, "You've lost your AirPod case." Now, I need my AirPods for later today to do some interviews for the show tomorrow. I went back with Ember and walked around for an hour where it said my AirPods were. Okay? An hour. It said I was right on top of them. I was using the Find My feature on my iPhone. It said I was literally right on top of them. Literally, like standing right over them. They were not there. I had friends looking. We looked all around everywhere I went in the park. They're not there. But Apple says they are there. At this moment, Apple says my Apple Watch, which is on my wrist, is actually over in the park. So their technology, not exactly the most reliable. Sorry, I am so late. The show is discombobulated. Sorry about all of that. But I am here, I am queer, and you are used to it. So there's that. Ember is here, we are here, and it's all a good thing. So I'm very, very glad you are with me, and we've got a lot to talk about, particularly, because there was a story here in Las Vegas that really struck a nerve in me. And the nerve that it struck was about kids attacking grown-ups. And I wondered, out loud, am I just getting old? Which I am. Am I just getting old? And, it's going to sound like, oh, kids these days. Or have they really, today's kids, taken a turn for the worse? And I thought I would start with that instead of Trump and Davos and Greenland and all that. Because there's a guy here in Vegas who is suing 7 families of 7 kids who attacked him in a park. Now, I have shared on the show that I have been attacked at Desert Breeze Park by kids on e-bikes. And in this story, it talks about how now there's a movement here in Vegas to ban e-bikes from parks. Because these kids come in a swarm on their e-bikes, they circle you, they do horrible things. And it's happened to me. Well, this guy, they knocked him down, broke his jaw, or dislocated it. And so he's suing. And, the comments down below are, well, kids will be kids, or kids will always be kids, or whatever. And I got the same attitude about those comments as I did this morning watching CNN, a clip on social media, where their conservative commentator was downplaying the Epstein files, and a female member of the panel just went off on him and said, I am so sick of you men excusing underage rape of women. I'm just so sick of it. Downplaying it because the guy that you champion happens to be someone that's doing it. And it's the same thing. We should not be downplaying the fact that kids between the ages of 12 and 16, 17 are really out of control. They're really out of control. And I've experienced it firsthand. And now when you and I, because we're older, when you and I were out of control, yeah, we did some things. And there were the normal things that kids did that were, not the best. And then there were the really bad kids who did illegal things. It appears that a majority of kids nowadays that are out in the world don't know where the line between propriety and impropriety and a prank and going too far is. And that's because they've grown up on social media and seen people doing things with no boundaries whatsoever. And they're being raised by kids themselves. They're being raised by 25 to 35-year-olds who also grew up on social media.
If you're not visiting reallykarel.com daily, you're missing out. Get the podcast videos and the blog, including recipes, at reallykarel.com. That's really KAREL.com.
Showtime is here, no time to fear. Karel is so near because showtime is here. So on with the show, let's give it a go. Karel is the one that you need to know.
So Rachel Capper in the chat room at youtube.com/reallykarel is saying that in Northern California, they have the same problem with e-bikes. The New York Times did an article about Marin County and kids and e-bikes. And it's usually upper-class families because they're very expensive and the parents don't care and they turn a blind eye. What I'm about to say might be hugely unpopular with many of you, okay? I am not for beating your children, okay? I am not for child abuse. But there is a line between discipline and abuse. I have never hit Ember. Ever. Well, once I tapped her on the nose. Tapped her. And you would have thought I cut off her leg. But I've never hit her. I will not hit a dog. And I don't think you should hit an infant child. And dogs are like 2 to 4-year-old children. They're not like teenagers, okay? I'm telling you right now, if my 13-year-old kid was out on an e-bike terrorizing people, not only would their bike be taken, but they would have met the backside of my belt. And you're all going to be, oh my God, Karel, you're a child abuser. I said fuck to my mother once. I was like 14 years old and feeling my oats. And my mom did something and I looked at her and I go, what the fuck? My mother, who wore rings on many fingers, backhanded me, my little 4'9" mother, backhanded me right across the mouth and made my lip bleed, which nowadays kids would threaten to call CPS over. Did I ever say the F word to my mother as a child again? I did not. Never once. When I was about 8 years old, we were visiting my grandmother on her farm up in Lincoln, Maine. And we were very poor, so we were staying with her. And I did something that she told me not to do. She said, don't go to the cow pen. Don't open up the gate. Don't go in the cow pen. So I go in the cow pen. A calf decides to chase me. I run out the gate. The calf chases me out the gate. I run across the field. The parents are actually laughing because this calf is chasing me. Finally, I get away from the calf and the calf gives up and then they have to go catch the calf. I go in, all the parents are laughing and such, except my grandmother. Now, there's a thing in Maine called pussy willows, and they're long, thin, and they have little cottony things on them. And my grandma would keep them in the house as decoration. So she said, Chucky, go get me one of those pussy willows. So I did. She grabbed me, bent me over her knee, and spanked my bare ass with the pussy willows, leaving marks. And she said, I told you not to go into the cow pen. Now you have caused your grandfather to have to go catch that cow. You could have been injured. The cow could have been injured. And I could not sit down the rest of the day. Now, today, that would be child abuse. And maybe it should be, maybe it shouldn't be. But from what I can see, kids are running all over their parents, which make them think they can run over any adult, literally on an e-bike or figuratively. When the kids 2 weeks ago circled me on the e-bikes doing 30 miles an hour, they could have killed Ember. They were 3 feet away from me calling me faggot, telling me their dad's going to come and shoot me. 13-year-old kids calling someone a faggot. A grown man, a 63-year-old man. I wanted to catch those kids and smack the shit out of them. But you can't, because you're over 18. But no one ever has in their life. Now, I'm not saying beating kids is good or okay. I'm just saying that there has to be some kind of discipline when out-of-control kids are out of control. Because they're going to just grow up and be these kind of adults. They're going to grow up and be the kind of adults we have in government right now. The kind of adults that don't have empathy, don't have compassion, don't care about others, will run over anything in their path. These people are created, and they're created as children. Kristi Noem didn't just happen. Peter Hegsworth didn't just happen. Donald Trump didn't just happen. They were bastard children, and they grew up to be bastard adults. Donald Trump is the way he is because his parents were wretched, horrible creatures. And I bet Kristi Noem's parents are a piece of work. It's because if you don't, discipline. What is wrong with a little discipline? What kind of kids attack a man in a park, 7 of them strong, dislocate his jaw, send him to the hospital? These are kids that did this. Who the hell is raising them? Who's raising them? And now we teach kids that there's no consequence or no real consequence for bad behavior. So they grow up to be adults thinking that, hey, I can be an adult and create and do bad things, and guess what? There aren't going to be any repercussions because they're fucking right. All I see in the news every day are actions by Donald Trump, his cabinet, and other people in this country. Negative corporate leaders, corporations, negative, horrible things that go unpunished. Because in today's world, the only people that suffer repercussions for their actions are poor adults. If you are a poor adult, you will suffer for your actions. If you are an upper middle class to rich adult, you can do whatever the fuck you want and get away with it. And I've got proof after proof after proof. And that does lead right to Donald Trump and Davos. If Europe should fire their trade bazooka. Yes, they should make us suffer. Because maybe through suffering, these idiot MAGA will see that it's Trump, but they won't. They won't. How do you think MAGA happened? Who do you think raised them? Who do you think raised the supporters of Donald Trump? Horrible people. Bigots and racists from the 60s and 70s and 80s that had children and raised their children to be bigoted, racist, transphobe, homophobes. They didn't just happen. MAGA didn't just happen. It was bred. It was bred and nurtured. And now we live in a society where the only people that suffer repercussions are the people trying to do something right. If you try to stand up for what's right, for what's good, if you try to delay, for instance, on social media, people can say obtuse and horrible things. But if you call them an idiot, or if you in any way shame them, your comment is removed, not theirs. Their comments, not removed. But if you comment about them, your comment is removed. Because you can no longer stand up to bullies. Europe needs to stand up to the bully that is Donald Trump. It's the only language bullies understand. And that's what parents don't get. If you're raising a bully, the only thing that your kid's going to understand is to be met with equal force. You know, you see on social media people doing things to their kids and people condemning them. Like a kid, white kid, made fun of this black girl's hair at school, and the parent told the teacher told the parent that their kid keeps taunting this black girl about her hair. You know what the parent did? Cut off all the child's hair. Said, you want to, tease someone about their hair? They shaved their head. They were completely bald. And when they went to school, all the kids made fun of them. And mom said, how do you like it now? How do you like people making fun of you being bald? And I bet that kid didn't make fun of anybody's hair after that. But online, that mother was horrible. Oh, the people online saying the child should be taken away. Another parent found out that their kid was taunting the fat kids. Was, being mean to the fat kids. And so that parent made their child walk home from school on the outside of the car every day because they were a little bit fat. And said, okay, you want to pick on fat kids? Well, you ain't so skinny yourself. You're going to walk next to the car every day to and from school. There were people that said she should be turned into CPS. Do you see what I'm saying? Nowadays, if you want to meet, a bully with force, you're the bad guy, not the bully. And the other part, I think, today is parents don't know right from wrong. The people raising children. For instance, when you see a young family, mom and dad and 5 or 6-year-old kids, and they all sit down at dinner and everybody takes out their phone and they put an iPad in front of their small child, that's wrong. That's wrong behavior. But you can't tell the parents that. That's wrong behavior. Try telling the parents. Not to mention nowadays, we've structured a society where parents don't have time to be parents. They're so busy with everything else, they don't have time to be parents. And so they leave the parenting to the television, to the teachers, to the social media. And we are now seeing more and more cases. Look at the shooters. So many shooters are between the ages of 17 and 25. Those are kids. Look at Columbine, the OG of school shootings. They were not, 25-year-olds. They were 17. And they just thought it was okay to pick up a gun and bombs and go and kill their fellow classmates. We are raising a lost generation. We truly are. That does not know right from wrong. And they're being raised by parents who don't know right from wrong either. And I really do blame the rise and advent of social media for this. And reality television. Someone in Greenland said when they think of America, they think of the Kardashians. And the Kardashians are the worst America has to offer. They might be nice people if you know them personally. Timothée Chalamet is dating one. But what they represent is abhorrent. Excessive wealth, excessive body mutilation, unreal body expectation of what their body should look like. Their message is horrible. And that's how we're seen. And Kim Kardashian's the mother. How do you suppose her and Kanye's West child are coming out? I bring this up because Brooklyn Beckham is all over the news. And he's trying to make his parents look like horrible ogres. His parents. You know what one of his complaints was? that at his wedding to the woman that they didn't approve of, the mom ruined the first dance because Mark Antony, that's who the wedding singer was. Mark Antony, the famous Hispanic Latin star. He was the wedding singer. This kid, Brooklyn Beckham, is going to sit at $1 million wedding and have complaints. Oh, and my parents will do anything to protect the family image, and even if it costs my happiness. And all the other kids are like, he's full of shit. All the other kids of Beckham are like, he's always been a troubled child. And I read his diatribe online against his parents. And I bet you wrote it on an iPad or an iPhone that mommy and daddy bought you. You know, here is a kid that grew up in the just lap of luxury. And he's got the nerve to complain about his parents. If I were them, I'd cut him off faster than if he was an actinic keratosis. I made a dermatology joke. All right. A lot more to do when we come back. Don't go anywhere. I was very late today, so, we'll be back.
Patreon is the way to show you care. Subscribe today if you dare. Keep the show on there. Patreon is the way. Now it's showtime.
I'm reading in the chat room, and everyone agrees. Parents are not disciplining their children, and they're growing up to be asshole adults. And there's an epidemic. I look at Turning Point USA. If my kid ever joined Turning Point USA, I'd move out of the country. I would take them out of the country. I'd take every bit of their phones away, because obviously they were brainwashed and indoctrinated. We have this epidemic of stupid adults raising stupid children. And we're paying for it in every aspect of society. I was at the store the other day with a young clerk, probably 22 years old, and the cash register broke. So she said I had to go to a different line, and I said, well, you can't make change? Oh, no, so what do you mean? She said, well, the computer tells me how much money to give back. And I'm like, you really can't make change? And I just stood there like, wow. I was like, wow. And this girl wasn't alone. Most kids under the age of 25 can't even make change for cash. If they ring you up and it's $14.85 and you give them a 20, they don't know they're supposed to give you, $5.15 back. Wow, Karel, you did that fast. Yes, because I learned math. We have kids tied to their phones. And what do they see on social media? Do you know there was a survey that boys between the ages of 14 and 22 are suffering mental illness about body image because of all the influencers online that they follow, and their bodies don't look like that. And so they're obsessing over things like protein, creatine. They're over-exercising and harming their bodies. And they're getting a negative self-body image because their body doesn't look like an influencer. And the parents aren't stepping in. And so we have all these young boys out there now living like girls. Because you women are like, well, no shit, Karel. Women have had an unrealistic expectation of beauty forever. Well, now it's been transferred over to young boys. And no one's telling them, you don't have to look like that. They're only going to look like that for 10 years max and then gone. Look at Brad Pitt. He's still handsome, but it's not the body he once had. Look at George Clooney. Still handsome, but not the handsome, young, tight, firm thing he used to be. But no one's telling them. No one's saying, you know what, that's unrealistic. Not everyone is that body type. The influencers aren't telling them because they're not going to make any money. So we have this Scott Galloway is addressing this. He has a book out, loudly speaking on behalf of young men and how they're failing and what to do about it. Yes, we're failing young men. They certainly shouldn't be like Charlie Kirk. Look at the role models they have nowadays. You know, Charlie Kirk, Donald Trump, Peter Hegsberg, online influencers who, you know, their whole business model is about being physically fit. So they spend 12 hours a day, you know, working on a body type that is just unrealistic. Look, Matt Damon, or Kumanji, what's his name? The comic and the actor. He did a Marvel movie recently, which didn't do well. And everyone's like blaming him. And in it, you know, he was all buff. And he said, I am getting shit because I got physically fit. So he's like, I'm damned if I do and I'm damned if I don't. When I didn't have all the abs and muscles, people were like, oh, you should work out. And then he worked out and got all the abs and muscles for the movie, and people criticized that. He's like, I am the only person in America that got shit for getting muscles. And he talks about the online influencers who, you know, look, I am rebuilding my Karel official brand on Instagram. And, you know, I only have 100 followers right now. So please go follow Karel official on Instagram. There are guys, all they do is get shirtless and flex with music on their Instagram. And they literally get millions of views. All they do. Or they'll show them working out, doing a sit-up, whatever. Meanwhile, we're a country obsessed with Ozempic. We're a nation of fatties watching online influencers be buff and thinking, oh, if I take that creatine, that's how I'll look. Oh, if I take that protein, that's how I'll look. You know, a long time ago, I realized I am never going to look like them. I have abs. I also have a layer of fat on top of them. And I'm always gonna. You know, I have muscles. If you saw my arms, I have muscles. But this is it. This is as muscular as I'm ever going to be. And I'm okay with that. No one's telling young boys today it's okay to have a different body type. And that's part of parenting. No one is parenting young kids. They are, you know, these young kids hear about these scams on Grindr where they post a fake picture, get a gay guy to meet him, and then beat the fuck out of him. And they think that's a cool game to play. They think that's just cool. Their parents don't sit down and tell them that's a reprehensible thing to do. And if you ever do that and get caught, I will let you go to jail. Their parents don't tell them that. Nowadays, you know, oh, and don't even try. There's been a few times where I've had to reprimand someone else's child. Y'all ever had to do this? Tell a kid to quit it? They're in a store or they're somewhere and they're just behaving like a brat. And you just turn around and go, hey, enough, cool it. And if you do that, what happens? Their parent comes up and get in your face to say, don't you be parenting my child. I had that happen out of Walmart. This kid was pulling shit off of shelves as he walked down the aisle, and the mom was just letting him. And I looked around and said, hey, stop that. Don't do that. And the mom said, don't parent my child. And I looked at her and I said, well, somebody's got to. She shut up very quickly. That's the world we live in. And as for, you know, well, we're going to change the topics now from kids because they don't go outside, they don't play, they don't interact with each other, they're in social bubbles. We're doomed. If the kids of today are the leaders of tomorrow, we're fucked. Hell, we're fucked with the leaders of today.
It's broadcasting from a completely different point of view. Yours. Listen daily to the Karelcast on your favorite streaming service. You're listening to the Karelcast. Driving you home or driving you crazy. It's broadcasting from a completely different point of view. Yours. Listen daily to the Karel Cast on your favorite streaming service. You're listening to the Karel Cast. Driving you home or driving you crazy.
Now it's your time.
You know, it's a shame that every morning I have to check the news to see what atrocity Donald Trump has done. That's really sad. And he did a press conference yesterday. Oh my God, he went off on windmills and he called Europe stupid. He said the United States only wants smart allies, not idiots that get their power from windmills. He says China sells the windmills to the cheap idiot countries like the EU. This guy, every day, he just does something that screams, get me out of office. See, we were just talking about parenting. This is a great segue. Congress is the parent of the president. That's how it was set up. Congress and the court are mom and dad. Supreme Court is dad, Congress is mom, however you want. Well, dad has usually used to have the purse string, so dad would be Congress, the mom would be the Supreme Court. Can I do it or can I not? But the president was supposed to have strong parents, checks and balances, discipline, keep him in between the rails. And if he ever got outside the rails, they had some methods to rein him in. They could censure him. They could impeach but not remove. Or they could impeach and remove. Or they could simply pass laws and bills to countermand what he is doing. But Congress is the disciplinarian of the president. That's why they have the power to impeach. They have the power to be the parent of the president. They're letting us down. They are not acting like the parent of the president. They're acting like today's parents with zero discipline, zero repercussions for anything bad. They are behaving like modern day presidents to a bully, or our parents to a bully. Congress is the parent, and they have a bully child. It's even called the bully pulpit. They have a bully child, and they are letting that child run amok with no rules, no boundaries, no repercussions. It is a perfect analogy for what is going on right now in Washington, D.C. Donald Trump is a petulant, willful, narcissistic, vengeful bully. That's what he is. And no one is standing up to him. No one is putting rails. No one is making him behave. It's not that they can't. They can. They have the power. But they won't. They won't do it. They're like parents today. They won't reprimand their own child. They won't make their child suffer repercussions for bad behavior. They won't apologize for their child. Lawmakers are not reaching out to the coolest president ever, Macron. I know he had an eye infection, but how fucking hot was he and those aviators up there talk? Oh my God, I got a hot flash. I'm like, Lord have mercy. Why can't that be my president? He was smart, intelligent, well-spoken, and hot. Did I mention hot? Oh, Lord. Now we're looking to Europe to be a foster parent to Donald Trump and rein him in. We're looking to China, to other countries, because Donald's parents, Congress, the Supreme Court, they're just enablers. And that's what parents have become nowadays, enablers of their children's bad behavior. That's what they've become. Either through inaction, not participating in their kids' lives, or through the wrong action, supporting their kids when they shouldn't be. That's Congress and the president right there. That sums it up. So what do? We're the neighbors. And the neighbor's kid is destroying our neighborhood.
If you're not visiting reallykarel.com daily, you're missing out. Get the podcast videos and the blog, including recipes, at reallykarel.com. That's really KAREL.com.
Showtime is here, no time to fear. Karel is so near because showtime is here. So on with the show, let's give it a go. Karel is the one that you need to know.
You know, and I know it's a broad generalization, okay? There are some kids that are extraordinary. I was an extraordinary child. And I was. I loved my parents. I wanted to impress them. I wanted to be something and make something. I took care of them. Up until the day my father and mother died, I was there for them no matter what. No matter what. I was there. I defended them. My mother was only 4'9" and open to a lot of horrible ridicule. She was handicapped. People made fun of them in the 60s and 70s. There was no decorum. So I was a great kid, and I wanted to learn. I was a 4.0 student, valedictorian. Do you know the joy I felt when I was the graduation speaker in an auditorium filled with 5,000 people? We had our graduation ceremony at the Long Beach arena, the round arena with the Wyland painting on the outside. You've seen it in many a motion picture and film. And that holds, I think, about 7,500 people. We had 1,100 in my graduating class. So there was easily 6,000 people. I won the contest to be graduation speaker because my essay was extraordinary. I remember the opening line of it. What are you doing the rest of your life? That's not just a song by Barbra Streisand with lyrics by Marilyn and Alan Bergman. Oh yes, that's how I started. 1980 in front of a group of black people because my school was predominantly black. What are you doing the rest of your life? That's not just a song by Barbra Streisand. Yes, the 18-year-old gay boy, 17. I turned 18 in November. Made a Barbra Streisand reference in my graduation speech. You bet your buppies I did. And do you know how proud I was to see my mom and dad sitting down front, my dad in a wheelchair, my mom sitting there, as I spoke at my graduation as valedictorian? Out of 1,100 kids, I was one of 20 with a 4.3 grade point average because of all my extracurricular stuff. I knew that being poor, I had to be smart. I knew that. So I learned everything I could about science and literature and art and math and all of it. And I felt grateful to be able to do it because we were poor. So when I went to Long Beach City College, I thought, wow, I'm in college. Now, I only finished 2 years of college. I did not get a degree. A lot of you think I have a degree. I've met people who think I have a master's. I don't. I do in life, but not on paper. But it gave me great joy to make my parents proud because they couldn't. Their generation couldn't succeed the way that I could because they were very poor. And they just didn't have access in the 40s and 50s to the things that I did in the 70s and 80s. I was proud. I was proud to know things. I was proud to be among people and be able to converse because I knew what they were talking about. Today's kids don't revel in knowledge, and neither do the adults. Look at MAGA. You know, there's a thing online. Someone said, what did you think? They were talking to a Trump supporter. And they said, what do you think when Joe Biden said that to cure COVID, you could shine a bright light in the body? And the lady goes, well, his dementia button had been pushed a long time before that. The man was just unfit for office and demented. And the reporter goes, oh, wait, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I've gotten my notes mixed up. Let me rephrase. What did you think when Donald Trump said that you could cure COVID by shining a light in the body? And that same person, without missing a beat, said, well, it really depends on the technology and the type of light that you're shining. So if Biden did it, he was demented. If Trump said it, it depends on the technology. That's a stupid person. That's a person that is an idiot. And in today's world, we're not allowed to call stupid stupid, but Forrest Gump said it. Stupid is as stupid does. I just saw a piece on farmers who are not happy with Donald Trump, even though they voted for him, but they still have hope that he'll do the right thing. And then they left the farm and went to the little town there who voted all for Trump. And they all said they thought he was doing great, that, he's doing fine. He's trying to do too much sometimes and he gets a little distracted, but... And I thought to myself, you don't have the fucking brains God gave you. And that's because their parents didn't instill in them the importance of knowledge, of wisdom. If you're listening to me, I guarantee you, your parents put something in you that made you want to learn, that made you want more knowledge, more information. Because those are the people that listen to talk radio and to podcasts and to things like that. You guys want knowledge. Knowledge is like food to me. It's like air. I have to learn new things every single day or I'm just not happy. Think of a new way of thinking. Even if I'm just watching television and I hear a really interesting line and I think, oh, that's a great line. And it makes me think about something. I heard one last night, but with my memory, I can't remember what it is. But I thought, oh, that's a very interesting line. I've heard a lot of interesting things on just episodic TV where I thought, oh, that's good writing. That challenges my thought process. It made me stop during this normal episodic television show and actually think for a moment about something. I like movies that make me think. I like songs that make me think. I like to write songs that make people think. My new one, I Dance Because. This isn't some mindless pop song. This is a song about carrying the memory of those past with you in the present and celebrating their memory and celebrating their joy. The video comes out this Friday. I hope you'll watch it. Do you think Donald Trump searches for knowledge and wisdom? Kristi Noem, Pete Hegseth, do you think any of them actually search for more? I read science journals. I read medical journals. I understand things I shouldn't understand. My friend Hannah wants to call me after the show because she wants me to do something legal for her because many times I have saved her a lawyer's fee by writing a letter or doing this or that because I know how to do it. Because I learn about everything that I possibly can learn about. When I went through the lawsuit over Andrew for 7 years, God, I learned about wrongful death, hospital mistakes. I learned about so much. Because I value knowledge. I value wisdom. I value debate. I value varying opinions. I value all those things. I know you do too. But we live in a society where they are of little value. I value detail. I like a 2,000-word article. I like to have things fleshed out in an article. I don't need a 140-character summary. That's not, today George Orwell was born. Today. It's my meme of the day if you follow me on Karel Official on Instagram. My meme of the day is that today, and I believe it was 1903, I'll have to check. It was either 1903 or 19... Oh, wait, I sent it to all my friends. Let me see. Today in 1903, George Orwell was born. A man in 1903 saw all of this coming. Can you believe that? A man born in 1903 saw all of this coming. He did. He saw it all coming. And that, in and of itself, is just remarkable to me. That in 1903, this guy saw it coming. And I think about that because how many people today, in today's world, have read 1984? How many do you think? How many people in today's world have read 1984? So when you make the reference to the book, which we are living, they don't get it. They just don't understand. Do you think Trump's read it? He's read Mein Kampf. But do you think he's read 1984? Probably not. I know you have. You know? Has he? No. So you look at the world's tragedies today. Every day you wake up and you see another tragedy. Trump's embarrassing us in Davos. They don't want him there. Oh, and they have new MAGA hats in Greenland. Have you heard about this? They're selling like hotcakes all over the world. Believe it or not, the number one selling hat right now is Make America Go Away. M-A-G-A. Make America Go Away. That's where he's brought us. That's how the world now sees us. Make America go away. Isn't that something? Yep. I go to high school football games and the stands are almost empty. Where are the parents supporting the players? You know, there's a high school right across the street from me. And one night, I don't know when football season is. I know nothing about sports. But it's right across the street. And I'll hear the marching band. And I used to be in the band. I played the tuba. And I'll hear the band. And I'll think, you know what? It's right across the street. And I'm just sitting here at 7 o'clock not doing anything. Man, I thought me and Amber should go and watch the game. But then I was afraid because I thought, well, they think I'm a pervert. I mean, I don't have one of the kids. Daniel Charleston and I used to laugh about this. Oh, my God. So Daniel Charleston, who is now dead 2 years, loved choir and chorale singing. And so he would often go to his old high school's choral concerts. And one of his professors, one of his voice coaches, taught at an elementary school or a middle school, grades 0 through 6. And they had a choir. And Daniel would go and watch. And parents would say, well, which one is your kid? And he would be like, oh, I don't have any kids here. And they would look at him like he was weird. Like, well, then what are you doing at a kid's concert if you don't have any kids? And so I worried about the same thing. Like, if I went to watch the high school football game, would they think I'm some pervy queer sitting there looking at the high school boys? Because after all, they would be sexy. I'm not saying I'd ever make a move on one. I'm just saying 18, an 18-year-old football player looks good. But they're supposed to. They're 18. Their skin is tight. Their muscles are firm. They're supposed to look good. But anyway, so I don't go. But I do walk past there sometimes with Ember. The park surrounds the football field. And I'll look and the stands are empty. And I'm like, where's mom and dad? When I was in high school, the bleachers were full. I'm like, where are the parents? Like, not even one parent can come and watch the kid play football? I mean, at least they're doing a sport. They're not, on their phones or whatever, and their parents can't even go. Now, look, I know about jobs and work and life, but I'm like, you gotta support your kids. Anyway, back to Trump. I brought back the Pride Band, thanks to the help of the booster parents and others. The band program had been cut. Oh, I know. I would love to help the band programs at school. We have a thing at Grammy called Grammy in Schools, and I'm very active in that. Because I think it's so important to have music. That's the other thing. I never had time to go be a terror. Did you? I know we're talking a lot about kids today, but it directly equates to Trump and Trumpism. Did you have time to go be a horrible person? I didn't. I was in band. I was in drama. I was in academics. I had to study to keep up my 4.0. Actually, no, I didn't. Isn't that horrible? So up until lately, even lately, I can read a book so at the beginning of like social studies, okay, they'd give you the textbook, which smelled so fabulous. Smelled so good. And I used to just put my nose right in I love textbooks. I love how textbooks, not just books, textbooks. I love how textbooks smell. So at the beginning of, say, social studies class, I'd read the entire book, the whole thing. And I'd remember it all. So I didn't have to study during the year. I'd just take the test and I remembered it from reading the book. The same with those cards. I went through and read all the cards. So I always was done with that class months in advance. So I was the teacher's aide. Yeah, I was that kid.
Patreon is the way to show you care. Subscribe today if you dare. Keep the show on there. Patreon is the way. Now it's showtime.
Alrighty, so we made it through today. I can't believe I made it through today. So guess what I have to do now? I have to rush and go buy a new pair of iPods. I mean, it says my AirPods I have them on a map. It shows me where they are, but they're not there. So I don't know what to do. So I'm going to have to go to the Apple store and buy a pair because at 2:00 I'm interviewing someone who's going to be on the show tomorrow about actually moving to Canada. How much is real estate? Where is the best real estate? What's affordable? What isn't affordable? Because on the show, I'm going to start actually exploring options for you and me. So maybe you'll hear something and go, oh, you know what? Maybe that is an option for me. Because I'm not encouraged that things are going to get better. And we now know there was a federal memo circulated that the feds want to take the power of the elections away from the states before the midterms. And there's already key people in government that's their job. Trump is trying to federalize the elections. And Congress won't stop him. You know, before we go, The Guardian had an article today, and it was about a professor who has a supercomputer. And they ran a model about what would start a civil war in America. What would really start the civil war in America? And guess what came up? Minneapolis. Minneapolis is the start of what could be a civil war. Now, I've been saying this, and I'm not a supercomputer. I guess my brain is a supercomputer. I've been saying this for a while now. They're going to send in federal troops into the blue states. The state National Guard or state police or state troopers are going to fire, ultimately, or the troops are going to fire on them. They're going to fire back, and that starts a civil war. And as it said in this article by this professor who has this supercomputer, who ran the model and said, nope, Minneapolis is it. That's how a civil war starts. The thing that would stop it from starting is if the generals realize they're following illegal orders and that the power is to say no to the president because they can. Yes, he is the commander-in-chief, but they take an oath in the military to defend the Constitution, not the president. So if what the president is telling them is unconstitutional, for instance, shooting unarmed Americans, if that's unconstitutional, they can resist the order legally. They have the right. But as Mark Kelly will tell you, talking about that is really unpopular. So there's already been a computer model that shows what Trump is doing is the way to a civil war. I maintain we're already fighting one. We're already fighting a civil war. We just haven't, done it en masse. But it's already being fought. And if he tries to federalize the election and take away our ability to have midterms, I don't know what's going to happen. Will people just be compliant? Because that's how dictators win. Read 1984. Compliance is how they win. And if the EU is compliant, if they don't stand up to Trump, if they don't initiate their financial bazooka, if they are compliant, he's going to win. He is going to run all over them. He wants us to have a civil war so there's no midterms. That's what he wants. It's plain. It's clear. He has sent out memos. And it's sad because people are buying into it. And you tell MAGA that they're going to go to war with California liberals, they'll do it. Watch the movie Civil War by Alex Garland. It's on HBO Max. Watch it. It shows exactly where we are now, and it's uber realistic. As they go through the South and they meet Jesse Plimpton and they say, look, we're all Americans here. There's no need for violence. And he says, well, what kind of American are you? Aren't we now being asked that very question by ICE? What kind of American are you? Aren't we being asked that by everyone? Are you a Trump-supporting American or are you one of them? Republicans for decades have painted us and them. And who are the them? We are. Enlightened, educated, kind, compassionate, empathetic, smart. We're the them. We're the other. Because what are they? Ignorant, compliant, cowards, really. Bullies, racist, bigots. I don't want to be around for the Civil War. That's why I'm going to have people on the show to tell us how to get out. Realistically. Not in a pipe dream, but can it really be done? And for how much? So today, the reason that made me late, the lost AirPods, which right now it says are in the exact location where I was standing. I have to go buy a new pair, have lunch, get back here and interview someone at 2. And then Jane Velez Mitchell is going to be with us. Remember her from LATV? Now she runs a vegan network called Unchained TV. And we are going to be talking about a documentary that she has on there. So that's the rest of my day. Thanks, Apple. I mean, really, if they were where Apple said they were, I'd be sitting here right now with my headphones. So thanks, Apple. Yes, and that's what's wrong with Congress. You're absolutely right, Poodle for Paws. Yep. We are in a time where they want a civil war, where all the makings of one is there, and where Donald Trump will do everything he can to start one. I want Europe to show him that they're willing to do a world war and that the U.S. will have no allies. See, Trump thinks that if there's a world war that China or Russia will side with us. They won't. They want us to fall, and that's what he doesn't understand. China and Russia want us to fail. He thinks they'll come to our aid if we take on Europe. Nope. They want us to fail. And so Donald Trump is betting on the wrong horse. You know, the speeches yesterday were scary. We'll talk about some of those tomorrow on the final show of the week. I am Karel. I want you to be who you want to be, so I didn't hurt you, buddy. Thank you for indulging me and letting me be late today. I'm sorry I was. And for nothing, really. Lost the AirPods and Damn it, Jim, I'm a doctor.
It's broadcasting from a completely different point of view. Yours. Listen daily to the Karelcast on your favorite streaming service. You're listening to the Karelcast. Driving you home or driving you crazy. It's broadcasting from a completely different point of view. Yours. Listen daily to the Karelcast on your favorite streaming service.
Showtime is here, no time to fear. Karel is so near because showtime is here. So on with the show, let's give it a go. Karel is the one that to know.